All right, we've reached almost December. We're a day after Thanksgiving, just
That's right.
doing another set of reviews. How many do we have?
Got 5 books this month.
5 good books. All right.
Our next book is The Hedge Wizard by Alex Maher. This is the first book in the fantasy series, The Hedge Wizard. There are 5 books in the series. I don't know if it's finished. I haven't read the 5th book because it's coming out next month.
Okay.
But I doubt it's finished, by the way it's starting out. There are 418 pages in the first book. Part of the world that our protagonist, Hump, for Humphrey, he goes by Hump, is living in, is ruled over by 13 gods. Those gods would often choose a promising young man or woman, sometimes even when they were a baby, and bless them with their power. These people that had been blessed this way were called chosen, and they would be able to cast spells using the god's power without ever having to learn any magic at all. And they were powerful, and they were what was protecting humanity from all of the monsters. A hedge wizard is someone who learned to cast magic without the god's blessing. They figured it out. They looked at the inscriptions around all the magic circles that gods, and when they were getting it chosen, and they would figure out, okay, if I did this, I could do this, and they would come up with magic, but without going through the gods. It was dangerous work, took a long time to learn to do it well, and they were seldom as powerful as the magician that was chosen. They were often looked down upon because they weren't chosen. And for much of the history of this country, they were hunted down and killed. It was a hard life, and it was usually on the road most of the time, where they would go from job to job doing little magic jobs for people. Hump is our protagonist, short for Humphrey. He was the apprentice of a hedge wizard. He tried to pick the hedge wizard's pocket when he was 6 years old. Hedge wizard grabbed him and gave him the opportunity to become his apprentice. And so he's been following this hedge wizard around for 10 years, learning magic. He doesn't feel like he knows any magic yet. He can do very minor things, but the hedge wizard has been trying to get him into a mindset that he can accomplish magic. And now his master just died. They were on the road, goblins attacked them. The master got an arrow to the shoulder, poisoned. He was able to get the arrow out, but there's poison in the wound. He can't solve that. He's trying to get to a place where there's someone that can solve it, puts his master on the horse and walks him to try and find out. And it's raining the whole time they're going. And his master catches a cold on top of the poison and he dies. And so he buries him. And now he's got his master's staff and his master's horse and his master's spell book. And the spell book seems to be magical. It's not just something that his master has written in. He's never looked in the spell book because the master's never let him look. But when he opens it, he finds names of 6 or 7 masters that owned the book before, with each of their names crossed out. And now his name is at the bottom and his master's name is above it with it crossed out. He tries to look through the book, but there's nothing. Late that first night, he's got on his horse and he's gone as far as he could, and he's stopped in a little clearing in the forest, and he's made runes all around him to hide his fire, to hide any sounds that he's made. But in the middle of the night, someone wanders into his camp and calls out if he can come into the camp. And he thought he was hidden. Turns out that this other guy's horse just brought him to this area. His name's Robert.
The horse or the
No,
guy?
the guy is Robert. He's a son of a noble, running away from his father. His mother's just died. They are trying to marry him off immediately, and he's not having it, so he's run away. He's got old rusty armor and a really nice sword and a horse. Anyway, they get to know each other and become fast friends fairly quickly. And they're both going to the same place. They're going where a new dungeon has just come up, and they're going to help destroy the dungeon, get the dungeon stone. And there's a great deal of money to be earned by the monsters' parts and hides and various magical parts of them. And especially if they can get in on the dungeon, finding the dungeon core, there's a lot of money to be made there. So they're going there and trying to get in on a party that will be going through the dungeon. As they get to the town, just before they get to the dungeon, there are several people that are waiting there to be led to the dungeon. There are 4 of them that are kind of fighting together. Those 4 form a party to go into the dungeon. The story is about how Hump and his companions grow in strength and unity as they encounter and overcome unexpected dangers in the dungeon. It's a very gritty novel where Hump doesn't grow in his power easily or quickly. Everyone around him seems to be better than him, but he's got a real think on your feet type of mentality that keeps him alive when he shouldn't have made it. There's a lot of blood and death, and no one escapes without injury. The novel's very well written, and the characters are fleshed out. You get to know them so that you understand why they're making the decisions that they're making. And this is a really good novel. I gave it a 10. This is also one that was referred by one of our listeners.
Okay. Thanks again.
It has light use of mild profanity, nothing truly objectionable. There's no offensive sexual content in it, but it's violent, bloody. They are fighting undead, they're fighting monsters, they're fighting golems, they're fighting people, they're fighting gnomes, they're fighting goblins, they're fighting constantly. And the world seems to be based on trying to stay alive. There's pockets of humanity in various areas, and everything outside that is dangerous. And there's whole sections of the continent that have been lost to these dungeons and these monsters.
So is Hump getting really powerful near the end? Like you said that the Hedge Wizards are never as powerful. Is it about him getting powerful, or is it more about just...
He is getting powerful, but in ways, unexpected ways. I'll let you read about that.
Sure.
Anyway, it's a really good book, and I rated it for teens.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
That's what I've read this month.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to some of those.
Okay. Good reading.